You're listening to Two Girls, One Crossword.
Breaking news alert. We went to the Tower of Niles, as mentioned in episode 41, Tower of Lies.
Ooh.
It is the replica Leaning Tower of Pisa in Niles. And we went there and we took photos. And if you want to see them, go on our Instagram or our Twitter.
Yes.
Links
Please.
in episode details.
Mm-hmm. Not to flex, but we look amazing. Probably the best we've ever looked. Definitely check out. Make sure to swipe on Instagram on our actual page. You will totally understand why we have never looked as good as we look in those pictures.
That's a realistic portrayal of us. Also, would like to let everyone know that there was no one there. That's why we're not wearing masks in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
We are in each other's bubble.
Yes. And actually, we are wearing masks in some of our photos because,
True.
We took them off for a couple because we were out alone in the fresh air. But yeah, it was a wonderful time. And I would visit again.
10 out of 10. Recommend. Niles has everything. They have a leaning tower. They have an H Mart. They have a cold stone. They have a spa that's, when COVID's over.
The infamous spa where Grace and I hung out for the first time.
I may move there.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
I've already moved there. I'm actually living in the Leaning Tower of Niles right now.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Rent would be like $800 a month.
Works
Just
for
kidding.
me.
Rent's actually not that cheap in suburbs. Okay.
Yeah. Well,
that's us. And we are the Good Evening Girls. And this is Two Girls, One Crossword.
Your favorite weekly Podword Crosscast. I am Chelsea Rowan.
And I'm Grace Topinka. And I stumbled over my words there a little bit, but it's fine.
Okay.
I made it through. I powered through it.
She did. Welcome back for another week in quarantine with the Good Evening Girls. It's us. And we've got a lot on the docket before we hop into our topics, I think. Quite a few things in the docket. Do you want to start us off?
I'll start us off with Polapalooza.
Let's do Polapalooza first. Let's get everybody kind of excited.
Yes. So we asked our Twitter followers, how do you feel about daylight saving time? For it or get rid of it? And 61% voted to get rid of it and 39% voted for it. So,
ooh, okay.
Yeah, 60-40 split.
I think that probably rings true with the general population. I don't know what the sample size needs to be, but I'm just going to say it, that our Twitter polls are the perfect sample size for the entire population of the entire world. So
it's scientific research and should be treated as such.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of daylight savings, one of our listeners wrote to us, Matthew Freed, and brought to my attention that a lot of people who are what you might say anti-daylight savings aren't necessarily anti-daylight saving so much as pro-keeping daylight saving, but keeping it all year round. So from what I understood, looking into this Sunshine Protection Act, as it's called, it seems like there is a big troop of people that would like to permanently move the clocks back. Move them back in March and keep them that way for the rest of the time. So never move them forward again in the fall. If that's what I think I am understanding that. Matthew, please write me. Maybe I totally misunderstood that. Essentially, it seems like they're trying to recreate a different standard time. Move the clocks and then just label that standard time.
Basically, they always want it to be light after work. And if you work a 9 to 5, I don't see a problem with that. I know Chelsea hates the sun, so she would probably think differently. But
I mean, I honestly don't care when the sun is out. I just don't want to have to do the clock changing anymore. Because I think that really does F things up. It really makes you super tired, or you just kind of screw up and sleep in extra late in the fall,
It's the clocks for her.
It's true.
Well, I have a correction.
Do we both?
Kind of. Well, it's from the shite last week. I talked about how the clue said something about enjoying relish with this treat, and the answer is Oreo. And I was like, who eats Oreos with relish? But I felt like I'd seen it before. And then a couple people told us that, relish means, I knew this, that relish means to really enjoy something. But for some reason, my brain, and Chelsea's too, I guess our brains are wired the same way, did not put that together. Although I do think it is kind of supposed to be a play on words.
Right. There was like something like a wire that was not plugged in.
Yeah.
When we read the answer to that, like we both have used, I've eaten this with relish, or I've read that, like whatever. I've used that word.
The experience.
Exactly. We've all been there. We've all done that. But when it comes to Oreo clues, I think Grace and I get a little hyped up. Our brains are moving too quick.
Tunnel vision. I see red.
Mm-hmm. So, yes, we did have, I think 2 people wrote to us about that. I hope you just enjoyed us making fools of ourselves. So please enjoy that aspect of our podcast, because that's what we're here for.
Doing that for you and for your entertainment.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's relish for you. Do we stand by doing a mukbang of eating Oreos and relish?
No. Well, no one asked us to do that.
So, sorry.
But maybe we should. Maybe that's our punishment for being dumb.
I've actually been thinking about it more and more, and I would love to add elements where we're eating food on our YouTube channel. And I can see Grace being like, you're out of your mind. So maybe that's something I'll do on my own.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a huge mukbang person because I don't like the sound that people, like sometimes when we Zoom and over lunch and do a crossword and you're like eating right in the mic, I'm like, I'm like, you're just chewing.
I'm sorry. I know. I'm not trying to chew directly into the mic, but the iPhone
I know you're not trying.
Mic
we don't even have our fancy mics when you're doing that. But
I know. I don't like the mukbangs for the ASMR element. I like just sitting and pretending that I'm eating food with another person.
I think that's what a lot of people like about it. I don't feel that way. I don't get any enjoyment out of watching people eat stuff. I would just rather eat it myself. That's just me. I'm kind of quirky that way.
She's so weird and random.
You wouldn't get it. Is that all our housekeeping?
I think that's the housekeeping. I think that means we move into the hits and shits.
Let's move right along.
Cool. Can I get us started?
Yes.
Did you do the Friday New York Times puzzle from last week by Cameron Austin Collins?
I feel like I did.
I learned something from this puzzle that I want to share with the entire listenership that we have. One across. Sandwich originally named the Aristocrat.
BLT.
Big Mac.
Oh.
Apparently, the Big Mac was originally named the Aristocrat, but people thought it was too difficult to pronounce and say, so they changed it.
Yeah, I feel like Big Mac obviously sounds like it makes more sense because that's what I know it as, but for McDonald's, Aristocrat is doesn't fit in.
It's a little
with
lofty.
The quarter pounder.
Yeah, exactly.
McRib.
The quarter pounder was originally named the Queen, and the McRib was Prince Andrew. Haha, that's a joke.
Wait, people like the McRib.
I'm sorry. Anyway, yep.
Well, speaking of... No, you go.
Okay. So also from that puzzle, I just want to do a quick little shout out to down blank effect bias towards products that consumers assemble themselves. IKEA effect. I didn't know that there was a name for this, but apparently there is. I thought that was interesting. But I did want to shout out that I actually did a topic on IKEA. I think the episode is episode 33, Multifunctional Lust, in which Grace talks about the 7 levels of hell, and I talk about IKEA. So find the allegorical connections there, if you will.
I think it was 7 deadly sins, which correspond with the 7
levels of hell.
Levels of hell. And sorry for the ambulance in the background.
People are sick, okay?
Could be a fire.
True.
Speaking of learning new stuff, there are a couple things that I learned from puzzles this week. The Washington Post, Sunday, March 21st, by Evan Bernholz, 44 down. Observatory discovery of 1930, or an animated pooch created in 1930.
Oh, yes, this was Pluto.
I didn't know that's where he got his name from.
Very cute. I thought that was an interesting fact as well. That's something that you would hope to see in pub trivia or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Someone else think of the of the question.
Not us. We're going to attend the trivia, not make it.
Another one that was something I learned was from the Thursday New York Times on March 25th by Alex Eaton Salners. 9 across, area named for gynecologist Ernst Grafenberg.
Oh, what was the answer?
G-spot?
Oh, right? What? Okay.
It's like he discovered it. Shocked.
Shocked. Honey, I was shocked. Also, imagine calling it the Grafenberg spot. What is it? Grafenberg?
Grafenberg spot. That's what I call it.
I found your Grafenberg spot. I can't even do it with like a sexy voice because it's just too effed up.
What if it was called the Ernst spot?
I kind of like that. The it's like you're listening to like house music. Anyway, that was me attempting to do house music.
As a friend. Another clue I liked from that puzzle was 12 down, distance between some and where, and somewhere over the rainbow. This one stumped me. I was like, what the heck are they talking about?
Oh, it got me too.
Octave.
Yes, very good. Very creative. I just sung the song. I was like, somewhere over.
I was like halfway through the song before I figured out. No, I didn't even realize until the other stuff was filled in. But another one from that puzzle that kind of made me roll my eyes was 45 down, blank conservative.
Oh, yeah, fiscal conservative. Yeah.
But yeah, that was my thoughts on that puzzle. It was like a roller coaster doing it.
That was kind of a roller coaster. I think Arian showed up in that puzzle. That was like kind of weird. I mean, it was clued like fine. But there's a couple of moments where Matt and I were like, is there like a hidden friggin' message in this puzzle?
Could
also,
be.
There was like, one of the clues was like Harvey of Hollywood. And the answer was Keitel, which is fine.
Yeah.
But, there was a couple answers and just clues that I was like, wait, what the hell is going on here?
That's the point of it. It was like secretly trying to put all these weird clues in there. But
and
being
it
like,
was
no,
constructed,
it's fine. Yeah.
It was constructed by Alex Eaton Sounders. So,
Isn't that person mysterious?
I think that's the person that nobody has really... I mean, I think some people have met this person, but they're very, reclusive, I think.
I don't know if I feel... For some reason, I know that story, but I could be completely making that up. But yeah, because I thought it was... I feel like Crossword Twitter has talked about, like, who is this person?
Yes.
Could be a pen name.
It's a running... it's a running joke, I believe.
That I'm not on the inside of. So if you know, let me know.
Yeah, we're talking out of our asses about Alex Eaton Sounders. I'm sure he's a
He
normal
listens
person.
And he's like, or she. Alex could be a girl too. Who knows?
Exactly. Not us.
I don't know. Or gender neutral.
Gender neutral.
We know nothing about this person other than their clues. Interesting.
Interesting choices. Yeah. Very well. Shall we move on?
Yes.
Did you do the Saturday New York Times puzzle by Emily Carroll?
I don't think I did.
I loved this puzzle a lot. I think you're going to like a lot of the clues and answers that I'm about to tell you. They're fun. Like 15 across. Animal that produces eggs once a year.
A human. No, just kidding. Doesn't make sense.
Yes, women only make one egg once a year. Okay, so we only have as many eggs as the years we're alive. That's a fact. Wikipedia it. No, the answer was Easter Bunny.
Oh.
Cute,
Ew.
right? Although,
just a bunny laying an egg. It's not right.
What's the chicken's part where they lay the egg? The cloaca?
They're cookie. Cloaca. Cloaca.
I wonder how big the bunny's cloaca is.
Well, tell you when you're older.
Okay, 28 across from that same puzzle. Sensation from a song that you're really, really into, slangily.
Vibes.
Eargasm.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I like that one. This one tripped me up for a bit. 58 across. It flies around Florence.
I don't know.
Italian flag.
Duh.
Or 14 down. Places to buy food you wouldn't want to eat yourself.
Pet store?
Yes. Fun fact about dog food, or, people eating dog food. I had a religion teacher in high school, because I went to a Catholic school, that told us that all old people were so poor that all they ate was dog food and peanut butter. And I was like, that's a lie. And I called her out on it. And then she kicked me out of class. So that was fun.
Is that in the Bible?
Apparently it's in the Bible. Christians are random. And then I'm going to end with another good clue from that puzzle. 33 down, 1 helping you find a cab, ?
Sommelier.
Yes, sommelier. Just, I like when they trick us with the wine ones. For whatever reason, I never go with wine.
No, I'm looking out for it now. I always think wine. Anytime it's a trick, I'm like, is this a wine one?
What else you got, Grace?
I have a couple. I'll just breeze through. The Wednesday New York Times by Amanda Rafkin and Ross Trudeau. I knew this was going to be a good puzzle because they are good constructors. I mean, everyone is a good constructor, but I like their style. So the theme was 38 across. Question asked regarding 2 red carpet photos of those named in the italicized clues. And this was the revealer. It was who wore it better. And so, for example, some of the other clues were Donald Duck or Popeye, sailor suit, Minions or Mario, denim overalls, Inspector Gadget or McGruff the crime dog, trench coat, I forget. Oh, and then Michael Darling or Baby Smurf footy pajamas. So I thought that
is cute. And I don't know if I did that puzzle. That's really cute, though.
Yeah, the one that I was like Mario and Minions. They definitely both were overalls, and then the code was cracked, and I was good.
Amazing.
And then I just want to give a shout out to the New Yorker Monday, March 22nd puzzle by Patrick Barry. 19 across, game that slowly reveals its players, ? Strip poker. And 23 down, viewed with disdain, hate watched.
Ooh, yes, I loved that one because you and I hate watched. Well, I would say we were like half hate watched Twilight. We actually really enjoyed it.
We started hate watching it and then we started love watching it.
So your heart can change, okay, folks?
Yeah, but that's all I got.
Okay, I want to end with one thing, another thing that I learned, and I want to know how you feel about this. Okay. This is from the Sunday New York Times by Julian Kwan. 1 across. SAT section eliminated by the College Board in 2021.
Oh, yeah, I saw the essay section, right?
Did you take the SAT or were you ACT?
I took both. And I think I took the SAT when there were 3 sections, but I feel like most people only cared about the 2-section score. I don't know. I don't remember.
I remember having, the essay was something I was well prepared for. I did better with like the writing and the comprehension stuff. But it was one of the things I hated preparing for because the writing style for the SAT was so bollocks. I just felt like I wasn't actually putting any personality or doing anything interesting with my writing. And so I hated the essay section, even though I did it well. And so to see that students no longer have to suffer, I'm torn. I'm happy for them, but I'm also pissed that I had to suffer through it.
No, you don't want to be one of those people that's like, well, I had to suffer, so you do too.
Oh, I would never want them to suffer. I'm just pissed that they didn't eliminate it earlier.
That's fair. Yeah, I honestly don't remember taking the SAT. I've wiped that completely from memory.
Yeah, no fun. That wasn't fun for anybody.
No, I like standardized. Not that I like standardized tests, but my brain works well with standardized tests, not to flex.
That is a big flex, because my brain does not do well with standardized testing. I mean, I'm average. I didn't do poorly, but...
What's your score? No, just kidding.
I literally could not tell you.
Should we flip our coinage?
Oh my God. Let's flip the coinage. All right. I'm flipping the coin now. Again, it's tails.
That's me. Ooh, maybe we're
What's a girl gotta do around here to get a little friggin' respect on this podcast?
To get a little head every once in a while. Well, we're in a tailspin, baby, because I'm going first again. So buckle up. My topic comes from the Monday 22nd New York Times crossword by Daniel Grinberg. 8 down. Nighttime demons. Picture this. You wake up suddenly from a deep sleep. Your eyes can look around the room, but your head won't follow. Panic sets in as you realize you can't move any part of your body. Suddenly, there's pressure on your chest. You try to scream, but nothing comes out. It's too late. You've been incubused this whole time.
I have some news.
Oh, you had sleep paralysis.
I have the same topic as you.
You do?
I do.
You know that this is my topic.
That's why I didn't think you were going to do it, because you had done sleep stuff before. And also, this is kind of like mythology, so it kind of intersects with my interests.
All right, fine. So I guess...
Wow. This is the second time in history that this has happened. Admittedly, your intro is better than what my intro was going to be, so thank you for really setting the scene.
Well, I guess we're here. So if you missed it, the topic today is Incubi. I'm interested to see your version versus my version. Hopefully we can...
as well.
We have enough different stuff. So how should we do this? Kind of go through, popcorn off each other and see what happens?
Should we vibe it?
Yeah, let's see. An incubus is a demon in male form who, according to multiple different myths, lies upon sleeping women in order to engage in sexual activity with them. I didn't really want to use the R word.
Yeah, no, but we can all just keep that tucked in the back of our minds.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's not to be confused with its female counterpart, the succubus. Mm-hmm. Incubus and succubus, good names if you have like two turtles or a pet that you don't have to say their name that much.
What would be a good nickname for an incubus/succubus named pet?
Oh,
perfect.
I don't know about succubus. Cubby.
Yeah.
But some traditions hold that repeated sexual activity with incubus or succubus may result in deterioration of health, an impaired mental state, or even death.
Oh my God. Nobody wants to die from having sex. I mean, maybe somebody does.
Take me out that way. Well, do you want to talk about the Latin root word?
Yes. So the name incubus is derived from the Latin word incubus, which means nightmare. And incubare, to lie upon or weigh upon. And then succubus also comes from Latin, from succuba, which means paramour, and succubare, which means to lie beneath, which I think is in reference to where the succubus would actually be within the position of the sexual encounter.
Mm-hmm. They're all doing missionary.
Mm-hmm. Although, honestly, I feel like a succubus has a little bit more initiative. So to me, just to do missionary as a succubus seems kind of boring.
It's not what I would do if I was a succubus.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess I'm not the queen of succubuses, so. Or succubi.
Succubus? I barely know her. Should we talk about the first mention of an incubus?
Think we should. Yes.
All right, well, I guess I'll say it if you're too scared to.
I'm scared.
The very first mention of an incubus comes from Mesopotamia in an ancient text called the Epic of Gilgamesh. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. From 2400 BC, a.k.a. the earlier surviving notable literature. So
yes.
They're showing up like in the early beginnings of storytelling.
Did you ever read Gilgamesh in high school?
I feel like I read it in college. I'm not sure.
I feel like it's one of those that like Gilgamesh and Beowulf are like kind of back to back in the curriculum.
Maybe. Then you can see that weird what Beowulf movie where it was like the weird CGI.
Yeah.
But anyways, in this story, Gilgamesh's father is said to be a demon who attacks women in their sleep, and his name is Lilu, and he is the counterpart of Lilith. But we'll talk about her a little bit later.
Another early mention of incubus, or incubi, rather, I should say, multiple incubuses are known as a group of incubi, comes from none other than St. Augustine of Hippo. Nobody knows who that is now. I mean, maybe somebody does, but Grace and I don't. Now
someone's like, oh, you don't know?
Apparently he's actually really important to like the foundation of Christianity, whatever. Anyway, so St. Augustine of Hippo talks about incubi and succubi in his writing, The City of God, which is from the early 5th century CE. Here's a quote. Quote, "There is also a very general rumor. Many have verified it by their own experience, and trustworthy persons have corroborated the experience others told, that sylvans and fauns, commonly called incubi, have often made wicked assaults upon women." Okay. So we're seeing it in Christian literature, starting around the 5th century. Which brings me to another important Christian figure, King James of Scotland, who was born in 1566 and he died in 1625. Do you know anything about King James of Scotland?
You know that I don't.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the King James Bible?
I was going to say, maybe that was one thing, but I didn't say it. And so, yes, I have heard of that.
You do know King James. You know his Bible. So King James sponsored the translation of the Bible into English, and so they named it after him. Thank you, I guess.
Oh, I feel like I may have talked about this in the translation episode.
You might have.
And how that basically sparked like a whole new branch of Christianity based on one person's translation.
Right. So why don't somebody go back and listen to her translation episode and report back and let us know if she talks about the King James Bible, because it's been a while. So anyway, not only was he, getting new Bibles out there into the world, he also published a dissertation called Demonology, which he basically talked about necromancy, the relationship between various divination methods, and black magic. He was obsessed with witchcraft because there was this time where he went to go pick up his bride. He got on a boat to pick up his bride, and there was this huge storm, and someone he thought the witches were all getting together and creating a storm to try and kill him. So after that, he became obsessed with witchcraft, and he sponsored one of the most brutal witch hunts in the history of Europe. Read about it. It's actually insane. Anyway, so yes, he wrote this dissertation called Demonology, and it included a study on demons and the methods demons used to bother troubled men, okay? According to James, there were 2 ways a woman could be impregnated by a dead man, because you need to cover these things in books on demonology, right? Mm-hmm. And the only way that these women can be impregnated by dead men is through the work of demons. The first way was essentially a dead body would be possessed by a demon, and then that body would rise up and go impregnate a woman. Okay. And this kind of led to a lot of vampire things, this version. Mm-hmm. The second version was through an incubi. But first, before the incubi could impregnate the woman, it first had to transform into a succubi, the female version, have sex with a man, mm-hmm. collect its sperm,
its seed, if you will,
and I will, and then transform back into an incubi and then go impregnate the woman. The coolest thing about this whole process, is that a lot of women in James's time were killed, actually, if they were found to have been impregnated by a supposed incubi.
Basically, men were upset that women were getting pregnant by other people. Mm-hmm. And so they were mm-hmm. Has to be a demon. Has to be a dead body.
Mm-hmm. And also it's a way to cover up our scandals.
Yes. And unwanted pregnancies.
So, yeah. That's King James for you. A very, very light touch on King James.
Well, I'm going to take it back further to Lilith, who is the original succubi. So the original lady demon lover. And she is everywhere, okay? A version of her appears in Sumerian, Egyptian, Greek, Roman, and Judaic mythology. So in Sumerian culture, she was known as Lili-Tu, and she was seen as a goddess of fertility and witchcraft. So it wasn't until the Assyrians and Babylonians came in and they started associating her with dark demons and that type of stuff. The Greeks called her Lamia, and they gave her an extensive backstory. So the story is she was a beautiful woman who Hera transformed into a monster after her beauty attracted Zeus's eye. So in her new monstrous form, Lamia roamed around the world, seducing men and eating babies.
Sounds like a cool day job, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And then in Jewish mythology, Lilith is described as Adam's first wife, and she was created at the same time as Adam. So if you're not familiar, Eve is created after Adam from his rib. But Lilith was created at the same time as him, and unlike Eve, she was not a submissive partner. She refused to honor Adam as her leader. And so she's kind of this feminist icon, if you will. So then this next part, I don't know what's canon and what's not, but this is one of the stories I read about Lilith. So the story goes that Lilith went off exploring on her own. She left the Garden of Eden and she discovered the Red Sea, where there were a lot of demons. She mated with them, as you do, and she started having a bunch of little demon babies, sometimes giving birth to 100 a day. Damn. They were known as Lilim, and they went out into the world as demons, and some of them were sexy, independent like their mother, and turned into succubi. So she basically birthed all these succubi and incubi. So Lilith and Lilu, those are Another great duo pet name. But if you watch the new Sabrina, then you would know who Lilith is. And I have a niece named Lily. Not short for anything, but she should start telling people it's short for Lilith because I like her story.
Yes, I like her story too. She does have kind of like a feminist, vibe.
Yeah, I think in some stories, it's like she mated with the fallen archangel and they had a baby. And then in some stories, she's like Lucifer's counterpart. So I don't know. She's all over the place. But basically, she's kind of cool in my book, at least.
At the very least, she passes our vibe check.
Vibe check? Passed.
Okay. So now that we know the basic background history of like where we see incubi and succubi coming up in mythology and religious writings, why don't we talk about the real deal? What do these demons do? How do they do it? What do they look like while they're doing it? Shall we?
Tell me.
All right. We're going to start with what do they look like? Originally, incubi were described as small creatures with faces like a monkey or a gargoyle. They had dark skin, fur, claws, horns, bat-like wings, the typical demon look, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
If they weren't flying, you might find them crawling, climbing, or sitting in a hunched position, which is kind of like what I do, usually.
Yeah, that's how you get around.
It is. And of course, it's important to mention that they are usually described as having massive genitalia.
Gosh, people were so sexually repressed back then.
They had nothing else to do. They had to think about like, what is the craziest thing that I could do to this demon? Let's give it a massive penis. Fine. But not only did it have big genitalia, the genitalia was also ice cold.
Edward Cullen?
Edward Cullen much? That does not sound appealing. But hey, to each their own. And you know how I kind of mentioned that incubi could turn into succubi and succubi could turn back into incubi?
Mm-hmm.
They were known to be shapeshifters, which essentially meant that they could shift into whatever form was the most appealing to their prey. But not to fear. According to Tor.com's Monster of the Week series, quote, as far as shifting goes, remember that incubi and succubi are imperfect mimics. Whether taking the form of a victim's husband or a sexy young drifter that looks like Ryan Gosling, the demon never gets the feet right. So, make sure your midnight lover takes his or her socks off. If they have duck feet, then you know you've been duped.
There's some people who hate exposing their feet and they always wear socks.
Incubi.
Yeah, that's the only explanation.
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like what incubi look like. Succubi, on the other hand, are often just like beautiful young women, but they might have some sort of physical deformity, like the closer you get to them, claws or like a tail.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I did want to mention, I should have said this when I was talking about the genitalia, but apparently the act of penetrating a succubi is described as entering an ice cavern. So that's important.
Some people might be, don't knock until you try it. Different sensation, I guess.
I know, but I think, the sensation itself might be like fun as you're doing it, but to hear it's like entering a cavern of ice, this doesn't really prick my interest upon hearing it. You
gotta get like a fleece lined condom or something.
Keep you nice and warm.
Practice safe demon sex, everyone.
And check your demon lover's feet, if that's your thing.
I always do. You gotta do a vibe check, feet check.
Temperature check?
In this day and age, yes.
It's true. Okay, so what can incubi actually do? They are most famous for having an insatiable sex drive, okay? They are sex-craved, and their human victims can literally die of exhaustion from too many rounds, like Grace previously mentioned. They can also be pretty violent. Many victims describe that the demons sit on their chest or cover their mouth so it's impossible to breathe, while also being assaulted. Ugh. And it's said that when an incubus arrives to prey on a woman, he takes precautions to prevent her from interfering. He might put her in a trance so she can't wake up, or maybe he paralyzes her so she can't cry out for help. Ugh. During the interaction, the incubus might try impregnating the woman. But like I said before, they need to have collected sperm ahead of time. They are incapable of impregnating a woman because they don't actually have sperm. So they have to be a succubus first, have sex with a man, transform back into the incubus, and then impregnate the woman, which kind of makes me wonder, like, if this is like a commentary on gender. I don't know.
Maybe.
What about sexuality?
They're like
are incubi
earthworms.
Bisexual?
Maybe. I don't know.
Are they bi icons? I leave that for our listeners
no,
too.
because they are assaulting people.
Okay,
so no.
yes, you're right. No. If they got over the whole sex crazed thing, maybe we'll talk in like another 3,000 years. But
yeah.
Okay. If the woman who is impregnated carries the baby to term and gives birth to it, it is called a cambion, which is essentially a child that is like half human, half demon, and usually has some sort of magical or demonic ability. And the most famous cambion in literature/mythology is none other than Merlin, whose mommy was a mortal woman and daddy was an incubus.
I thought you were going to say Renesmee, which is Bella and Edward's child in Twilight.
Technically, a half vampire is called a Damphir. But, you know, it's all the damn same thing.
Stephanie Meyer, and maybe I'll just say this now. Stephanie Meyer, in the Twilight canon, she says that incubus demon folklore originated from sightings of actual vampires who impregnated women through consensual or non-consensual sex.
Oh.
So, you heard it here first.
And that is Twilight lore for anybody out there who is curious. Cool. Back to Merlin. So Merlin is a cambion, okay? Mommy is immortal, daddy's an incubus. He actually inherited superpowers from his dad, the most notable being prophecy and shapeshifting. So
Nice.
I don't know if he ever actually got over the trauma of being the child of a demon. If anybody out there knows, let me know. Is Merlin's trauma addressed? Ever?
Probably not.
Probably not. And I think someone should probably, do a historical retelling. Give him the story. What is it? Give him the retelling he deserves.
Yeah. I'm sure he has some type of identity crisis. Doesn't fit in fully into either world, really.
Don't we all? And yeah, like I mentioned before, incubi are commonly accepted to be shapeshifters with the ability to shift between various bodies and forms. When they take on the female form, they're succubi. And succubi are known for forcing their prey to perform cunnilingus while their, body drips urine and other fluids.
Oh, I saw part of that, but not the dripping part.
Yeah, so.
Well, that's a little much.
So, welcome to this week's episode, folks. It's a doozy of a ride. So that brings me to, how the hell do you get rid of an incubi or succubi? There's a couple ways, and they all seem to be Christian ways. So if you know any non-Christian ways to get rid of an incubi, please write to us and I will amend this section. You can exorcise them with a priest. You can just go to confession. I don't see how that'll help. You can make the sign of the cross while reciting a Hail Mary. Or you could just move. Yeah.
Just move. Just stop getting arred by a demon.
Yeah. Stop getting sexually assaulted by your sleep paralysis demon. Cool.
They follow you. Okay.
Yeah.
I've had sleep paralysis all over this damn city. Okay. But I wanted to talk about sleep demons around the world because they pop up in like a bunch of different countries, have a bunch of different like folklore and different names for them. But the general consensus is you're sleeping at night, there's a demon sitting on your chest, sitting on your body, and not necessarily sexual, but let's get into it. Okay. So in German folklore, the Alp is a vampire-like creature who visits its victims at night. It wears a cape called the Tarnkappe, which is imbued with magical powers. In African folklore, the Popobawa is a shape-shifting evil spirit who stalks victims at night from the shadows, and the way to stop a Popobawa from repeatedly attacking you is to tell other people that you've been victimized by one.
Okay.
Which I feel like there's, a moral there.
There is. I like the life lesson there.
Yes. Okay. In Chilean folklore, The Trauku is a small, ugly humanoid creature who attracts and attacks women. And these attacks aren't restricted to nighttime, but the victims often end up pregnant.
Gotta love it.
There you go. In Catalonia, Spain, the Pisanta is a black animal, often a dog or a cat, that invades people's homes and sits on their chest while they are asleep, making it difficult for them to breathe and causes nightmares. In Hungarian folklore, the Liturk is a satanic lover. It can have the body of a human, but leaves the footsteps of a horse.
The feet, they come back. It's a foot thing.
Shout out to Rosemary's Baby. Just kidding. Rosemary's Baby is a goat. But yeah, the feet are weird. You gotta make sure they don't have horse hooves under there. Shoved into their
boots.
Air Force Ones.
Yeah.
Reeboks.
Forces, yeah. Their Timbs.
You could probably hide them best, actually, in Doc Martens if you had hooves.
Yes, if you're a sleep demon and you're listening, get yourself a pair of Docs.
No one will know. How would they know?
How would they know?
Okay.
They'll never know. Okay.
In South African folklore, Tigoloshe is a small, hairy, supernatural being who is said to R women and bite off children's toes while they are sleeping. I hate that. Some women place their beds on bricks to deter them since they're so short. So, again, they're short. They're all short.
Tiny,
men,
tiny.
At least. In Assam, which is a northeastern province of India, a pori comes to men at night in their dreams and seduces them. And gradually the victim's health deteriorates, and in some case, they develop suicidal tendencies.
No bueno.
In Turkish culture, there's something called the Karabasan, which is an evil being that descends upon sleepers at night. They're thought to be spirits. They can be seen or heard in the nightmare, and a heavy weight is felt on the chest.
This heavy weight?
Yeah. People cannot wake up from that state. And they say some of the causes could be sleeping without adequately covering the body or eating in bed.
Either or.
Yeah. In Norse folklore, a mare is a spirit or goblin being that sits on a sleeping person's chest and causes them to have nightmares. And then in Brazil, shout out to our friends Paul and Missy, our dolphin friends, the Amazon River dolphin, or the Boto, is believed to be a combination of siren and incubus that shapeshifts into a very charming and handsome man who seduces young women and takes them into the river. And apparently this Boto is responsible for disappearances and unwanted pregnancies. And according to legend, a Boto always wears a hat to disguise the breathing hole at the top of its head while in human form and turns back into a dolphin during the day. So check their feet, check their blowholes, make sure. This could be like any hipster walking around in a beanie and Docs.
Essentially, St. Augustine of Hippo was trying to prepare us for hipsters.
Maybe. In other parts of Brazil, the Pisadera is a creature with long fingernails that lurks on people's rooftops during the night. And it comes into a person's house at night and tramples on the, you guessed it, chests of those who are sleeping. So yeah, basically the idea of weight holding someone down while they're sleeping is all over the world. The terminology in Mexico used to describe sleep paralysis is subirse el muerto, which is AKA like the dead body on top of me.
Ooh.
So it seems to be a common theme. And as someone who has experienced sleep paralysis, I've not, had any like sexual thing, but I have definitely felt like pressure of something on top of me or like inside my chest trying to come out.
Right. And I think we talk a little bit about sleep paralysis in, what episode is it? I might have written it down.
Yeah, I did a topic on sleep disorders and talked briefly about sleep paralysis, but I'm sure we'll get into it later. But another Christian theologian, Thomas Aquinas, which is the name of the high school my dad went to, he believed in incubus and succubus demons. And this is a quote in regards to people getting impregnated by them. Oh, wait, just kidding. This is what you said. Basically, yeah. It is not from the seed of such demons, nor from their assumed bodies, but from the seed of men taken for the purpose, as when the demon assumes first the form of a woman and afterwards of a man, just so they take the seed of other things for other generating purposes. They're obsessed with this idea. Why?
Why
do people like... Maybe it was... Oh, it probably was to cover ours, and they were like, oh, I didn't do anything to that woman. Some demon took my sperm and gave it to her. That's why her child looks just like me.
No, for sure. Yeah. I talk a little bit about this later, but the question of like, why was the incubi and succubi created? You know, like if we're thinking of it strictly in a mythological sense, you know, what is it an allegory for? What does it represent, like in the society? And, you know, people obviously think a lot of people anyway, obviously think that it is to cover up sexual assaults and ours of women, or to just blame them, you know, for not taking special Christian precautions to stop a incubus from R-ing them and impregnating them. So,
well, some like non-scientific explanations for this phenomenon. In some cultures, they say that shamans cast spells on people. For example, in the Inuit culture, people tell of shamans who cast a spell when a person is sleeping, causing an experience called Uku-mangurnik, during which a person can't move, talk, or scream and is visited by a shapeless or faceless presence. So it's just crazy to me that because sleep paralysis is real, and I have had this feeling before that I wake up, I can't move, I'm, completely paralyzed, and I feel like something's in the room with me. My thing is, it's not demons, it's like people more so, but it's kind of like people are having sleep paralysis in all these different cultures. Is it because we hear the stories that that's what we internalize and like that's what our brain creates when we have these issues?
Right.
I don't know.
Who knows? Because I've never thought of like what I experience with my my own sleep troubles as sleep paralysis until I met you. But my experience is it's different. Like I do feel sometimes like something really heavy is sitting on my chest, but I always think that there's large groups of people in the room with me. It's never been anything like demonic or, otherworldly or faceless. I always like think that I'm in a room with a bunch of people and I can't move and I can't do anything to change it. And
yeah. Well, do you have any, didn't you do explanations of
I did.
What could really be causing this?
So what could really be causing this? And we've been talking about sleep paralysis, and I think, that's one of the big scientific explanations. And I also already mentioned that, like, we've taught, like, potentially it was a way to cover up R's and sexual assaults of women. But let's talk about sleep paralysis a little bit.
Let's.
So, sleep doctors all around the world think it's probably some sort of sleep disorder, like sleep paralysis. According to Dr. Jan Dirk Blom, a professor of clinical psychopathology at the University of Leiden in the Netherlands, says that sleep paralysis occurs when a person wakes up from REM sleep, but their body remains in a sleep-like state. Although the person is fully conscious, his muscles remain immobile, just like they are during REM sleep. The person might also experience pressure on their chest and a feeling of suffocation, since the body's pulse and breathing rate is slower, as in REM sleep. But the most terrifying symptom is hypnagogia, a multisensory hallucination which can conjure up visions, smells, sounds, and extreme emotions of fear or euphoria. So that's basically the hallucinations that happen with the sleep paralysis. That's why when we say your sleep paralysis demon is here, that's that hallucination element.
Yeah. Well, okay, that makes sense, because I was wondering I understand, like, being in a dream state, not your body is paralyzed, but I didn't understand what causes that feeling of pressure on your chest. That makes sense, that you just feel like you can't breathe. Because I have had another sleep paralysis more recently where I thought I was like choking in my dream and I like could not breathe through my throat, but I wasn't choking. Anyways, it was weird. I recently did have sleep paralysis, like this last weekend. It was auditory though. Just sounds. Well, a little bit of visual, but
I had that recurring. There's people in the apartment.
In the room.
Yeah. It was like they're opening the door.
Yeah.
And I'm laying completely naked on the bed, unable to move or breathe. And I'm like trying to get Matt's attention and be like, you need to get these people, like, why did you invite these people over? You need to get them out. But he's not even in the room. But in my, everybody's there in my, I don't know if it's sleep paralysis, but it's sort of like that, but it's not as close to sleep paralysis as your experiences. Anyway, let's talk a little bit more about sleep paralysis. Professor Blom from the Netherlands, he published a study on the topic where they looked at 13 studies of incubus phenomenon, and the study included nearly 1,800 people. Researchers found that over 1 in 10 people, or 11% of the general population, will experience the incubus phenomenon in their lifetime. But for certain age groups, the odds of an encounter with an incubus, quote unquote incubus, are much higher. And these are people with psychiatric disorders, refugees, and students. Interesting. The odds for these people can actually be as high as 41%. Stress. The study also found that people sleeping on their backs are more likely to experience the phenomenon, as well as if they consume alcohol before bed or if they have irregular sleep patterns. Is this a personal attack directly on me and Grace? I don't know. Grace doesn't drink before bed, but we definitely both are very proud of being back sleepers.
Yes, I have a special pillow and everything, and I'm not changing that. But I have noticed, yes, it is only when I'm sleeping on my back.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's so interesting. It is. Because
I also have it sometimes if I'm like sleeping in a new place. I wonder if that has, I mean, I'm sure like being a refugee probably comes a lot of other anxiety that could cause that. But I think sometimes when your body is sleeping in a new place, it's just thrown off. And maybe you have anxiety about that. And that's why, I mean, this is based on nothing but my own personal experiences. But could be students are under a lot of stress. Students have irregular sleep patterns.
When I started experiencing it was in college for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And my roommates would be like, you were just making like weird noises all night, and like we couldn't get you awake, but you were like awake. And I was like, I wasn't, obviously. I was just like laying there, just like being really freaking weird. Anyway,
we're fine.
We're totally normal. Yeah, that's the scientific potential explanation.
Well, I went on a website called sacspirit.com, and SPIRIT stands for Sacramento Paranormal Intuitive Research Investigation Team.
Clearly.
Okay. It's like a paranormal group.
Yeah.
They have an article called A Brief History of Incubi and Succubi, and they, talk about them, believe that they are real demons. And they talked about the most famous and well-documented case ever was the 1974 case of Doris Byther in Culver City, California, who was repeatedly sexually assaulted by 3 unknown forces on a regular basis. And a local university even went in to investigate this case, and it was the basis for the 1978 novel The Entity, which was later released as a movie.
Oh my God.
So if you're interested, maybe check that movie out, The Entity. But this group claims that some people actually have sex with these demons consensually, and that history is littered with examples of this, supposedly. Most famously, witches who were burned at the stake for, quote, wanton fornication with devils. And they say that sex with demonic spirits was one of the most common charges during the Salem witch trials. But they do not recommend having even a consensual relationship with demons because, you don't want to mess with that, they said.
I'm inclined to agree with them.
Mm-hmm. And then, I was basically going to talk about how the demons are able to conceive children. And, I read that the Cambions, they have supernatural abilities and they can become extremely persuasive.
Okay.
And then if Incubus, this thing said that Incubus and Succubus could get together and have their own baby. And it would just be another Incubi or Incubus or Succubus.
Okay.
And be a happy little demon family.
See, here's the thing. With demonology and mythology, things are kind of fluid, just like the sexuality of the Incubi/Succubi. Okay? Mm-hmm. Anything's possible. The only true clear takeaway and advice that Grace and I can give you is to check the feet of your sexual partner. Mm-hmm. Check for their blowhole. Remove the hipster's beanie. You must. Mm-hmm. Do not have intercourse with a hipster wearing a beanie. Mm-hmm. And that's all I got.
That's all we can say. I mean, you should sleep on your back because it is good for your spine and for your face. And just, I guess, getting a little visit is the price you have to pay. But other than that, I think that's all we can really say on the topic between the two of us.
Yeah. And I mean, if we're being real, if you start getting visited by an incubi, I'd recommend Incubus or multiple Incubi.
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend one. Write to Grace and I immediately.
We could go sleep over.
It'll be a lot of fun. It'll be like a party. We will bring our special back sleeping pillows because we have the same pillow because we're insane. Or number 2, contact your local sleep doctor. Get in for a sleep test. And maybe see a therapist for anxiety. The only reason I say that is because my instances of this sleep paralysis, whatever it is that I'm experiencing, has gone down now that I'm getting treated for my anxiety.
Look at that. Happy ending. Take that, demons.
Take that, honestly. Yeah, so.
Cool. Well, I guess we should just end it here.
I
So
guess
if
we
you do
should.
have any... Oh, just if you have sleep paralysis, maybe that'll be our poll this Twitter week, because I feel like a lot of people do have sleep paralysis. Yet I'm the only one who continuously blabs about it. So hello, where's everyone else? I want to exchange our hallucinations.
Yes.
But if you want to talk to us, you can find us on Twitter at the Good Eve Girls,
Or Instagram at the Good Evening Girls.
or TikTok at the Good Eve Girls. Until then.
Until next time, sleep well. And be safe out there, folks. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.